Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from the Daily Wire dated March 19th. This one is entitled Inside the Now Shuttered Federal Agency Where Employees Lived Like Reigning Kings. It says employees of DOGE's latest target spent taxpayer money on exotic vacations, portraits, and more. And aren't you happy that your taxpayer dollars were going to other people who just decided to do this with it, with your money? Like, are you cool with that? So let's go ahead and see this. And I'm glad Trump is running roughshod over the federal government. Let's see what this has to say. It says, one of the 7 small federal agencies that President Donald Trump ordered downsized or eliminated on Friday was rife with corruption, with its employees hiring friends and relatives, commissioning paintings of themselves. My God. Talk about narcissism. I'd never commission a painting of myself. And using government credit cards to indulge in constant luxuries. As the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, or FMCS, I've never heard of this before, occupied a 9-story office tower on D.C.'s K Street for only 60 employees, many of whom actually worked from home prior to the pandemic. Its managers had luxury suites with full bathrooms. One manager would often be in the shower when she was needed, like every time. That's a convenient time to take a shower while you're supposed to be at work. It says, while another used her bathroom as a cigarette lounge. Lovely. Says FMCS recorded its director as being on a years-long business trip to D.C. so he could have all of his meals and living expenses covered by taxpayers simply for showing up to the office. Yeah, that's corruption if I've ever seen it. It says FMCS is a 230-employee agency that exists to serve as a voluntary mediator between unions and businesses. As an independent agency, in scare quotes, its director nominally reports to the president, but the agency is so small that, in effect, there is no oversight at all, and it showed, becoming a real-life caricature of all the excesses that the Department of Government Efficiency has alleged take place in government. Says this reporter spent a year investigating the agency a decade ago. Oh, okay, so it was a while ago, but still, that's a lot of time. And I found egregious and self-serving violations of hiring, pay, contracting, and purchase card rules. One thing I could not discover is why the agency actually existed, other than to provide luxurious lifestyles for its employees. That might actually be the reason it existed. There's endless junkets to resort destinations, which employees openly use to facilitate personal vacations, were justified as building awareness of the agency in the hopes that someone would actually want to use its voluntary services. So, that just sounds weird. So, what did your company do? Oh, we just travel to exotic locations with our families on vacations. I don't actually have a job, but the government pays for it. I mean, okay. Says FMCS seemed, quite clearly, to exist for the benefit of those on its payroll and not much else. One employee told me, let me give you the honest truth. A lot of FMCS employees don't do a hell of a lot, including myself. Personally, the reason that I've stayed is that I just don't feel like working that hard. Plus, the location on K Street is great. Plus, we all have these oversized offices with windows. Plus, management doesn't seem to care if we stay out at lunch a long time. Can you blame me? Honest to God, no, but at what point do you go, this is probably too good to be true, and if it is too good to be true, it probably is? So this is Recreation and Reception Fund for this section. Top FMCS official George Cohen used a recreation and reception fund to order champagne and $200 coasters for his office and to purchase artwork painted by his wife. Well, that's embezzling if I've ever seen it. And $200 coasters, really? You need to spend that much on freaking coasters? Jesus Christ, they're just coasters. I don't even care if I had Elon Musk money. I wouldn't be spending $200 on coasters. Anyway, it says the tiny agency commissioned paintings of its top employees, as one employee told me, like they were reigning kings or something. I've never seen anything like it before. It spent $2,402 retouching the portrait of someone who briefly held the top job in an acting capacity. I mean, this is like did they have like 80,000 golden toilets or something like that? It says FMCS employees unblocked their government credit cards to turn off typical abuse protections, then use them to apparently fund personal expenses and simply bill anything they'd like to the government. One employee leased a BMW. Another, as IT Director James Donnan, billed the government for his wife's cell phone, cable, and TV at both his home and his vacation home, and even his subscription to USA Today. And how much should we bet that if this guy gets looked into more, I'm not sure this article's going to go in it because, like I said, I haven't read it, that his houses were financed by the government. What are the odds of that? His employee Dan W. Funkhauser used his FMCS credit card, I should say, well, probably is a credit card, to rent a storage unit near his home in rural Virginia 2 hours from the office he supposedly worked at, which was used to store personal possessions such as a photo album of his dog, Buster. I mean, I understand getting pictures of your dog, but you rented a storage unit to put, okay, just, my God. Says Funkhauser also spent $18,000 at a jewelry store near his house and destroyed all purchase card records upon leaving the agency, an audit said. When Charles Burton retired from FMCS, he incorporated an LLC to which another FMCS employee paid $85,000 using his purchase card, listing it as a call center service, even though the company had neither a website nor a working phone. That is called embezzling. This is when an accountant, Carol Booth, blew the whistle on financial abuses to the General Services Administration, which manages purchase cards and contracting. Cohen forced her to send an email, which she wrote under her name, rescinding her statement. Corrupt as hell. Says, like something out of The Office, the employees spent an inordinate amount of time and money congratulating one another for being employed there and engaging in work that really amounted to pampering themselves. One purchase was for $30,000 on trinkets marking employees' anniversaries. The agency's office was absurdly oversized, but it refused to move. It hired a consultant for a hallway improvement project to decorate, added an in-house gym for employees, and purchased a $1,000 TV for the gym, a $3,867 ice maker, and a $560 stereo. The ice maker price, I mean, really? Is the ice fancier? Why spend that much money on an ice maker? Says the expenses were actually business related. The expenses that were actually business related were hardly better. It paid, for example, $895 for Suzanne Nichter's enrollment in the English Essentials, a grammar refresher course, and $735 for Lakeisha Stewart to attending listening and memory skills development course. Okay, I don't even know what to say here. This is just disgusting. This is all expenses paid lifestyle. As FMCS used federal jobs as a spigot of cash for friends and relatives. Allison Beck, a former union lawyer who became a top FMCS official, employed her sister-in-law as a special assistant, and an inspector general found evidence that she tried to create a high-level job for a friend. At what point, when all these people are being hired, and especially friends and family members, do they not think they're hiring at least one person that's going to be yeah, this ain't cool, who do I blow the whistle to here? I mean, someone eventually is going to do that, so I wonder if this is going to go to, who actually did or when that happened. But let's keep going here and read about these disgusting abuses of our money that these people did. It says, FMCS employees allegedly steered contracts to friends, allowing them to write the statement of work that would be used to choose the contract winner, resulting in, of course, their own selection. Such trainers were paid $1,500 per day per person to train FMCS's staff. What are they training them on? They don't even do anything. You're training on how to not do anything more effectively? So it's plus $163 an hour for travel. When a low-level employee eventually said the extra travel pay ran afoul of federal rules, a contractor made clear he viewed it as an entitlement, huffing, "Work we have successfully performed for the agency for more than a decade, at great personal sacrifice, I should add, will be taken away unless we comply in an unquestioning manner with your edict." The Scott Beckenbaugh, a top agency official, was paid $174,000 a year, but that wasn't enough. He had his duty station listed as Iowa so that he could have all of his living expenses and food paid for in D.C., where he lived and worked, as if he was on a 6-year-long business trip. That's a hell of a business trip. And really, at $174,000 a year, you couldn't have paid for that stuff on your own? Really? Says when an employee raised the issue to a top agency lawyer, the lawyer told him he should not raise these issues. It would open a can of worms. And oh boy, it looks like it certainly did. Says FMCS hired a former mail carrier who lived in Pennsylvania, Luann Glazer, for a high-level DC-based job, and agreed to pay for her to stay in a hotel for half of every month, even though it would have been easy to find someone better qualified who didn't need to be put in a hotel to simply do her job. Yeah, couldn't she just move there? I mean, I don't know. Says Paul Vaught, a human resources official, was listed as living in D.C., even though he actually lived in Wisconsin, because those two places are close to each other, as in order to fraudulently obtain higher cost of living pay. Vaught's boss was Arthur Perlstein, who left the agency to become a law professor and was then rehired after his academic career imploded in a plagiarism scandal. So good people all around. As his first move in his new job was terminating an independent investigation into FMCS staff abusing taxpayer funds for personal gain. Corrupt as hell again. Says Cohen, for his part, steered work to his previous employer despite signing ethics forms saying he would not. And again, corrupt as all hell. So it says constant junkets for this next section. As many of the agency's top employees lived outside of the typical Washington, D.C. commuting area and only stopped in the area occasionally in an era before telework was routine. Its CFO, Fran Leonard, would come to the office twice a week but leave by 2 p.m. Wish I could be done with work by 2. Usually I'm out by 3. Says the agency had, inexplicably, an office in Honolulu, because of course it did. It funded constant travel of its employees to exotic locales on the pretext that it was drumming up business for the federal agency, an admission that there was little demand for the agency's existence, and it doesn't seem like there was at all. As in 1 month, Beck traveled to Italy and Switzerland, where she conducted a business meeting over video chat. Then she went to Tunisia and an island off the coast of Georgia. She flew first class and forced the agency to reimburse her for mileage when she drove her to her vacation home in Maine. The agency had 3 full-time media relations staffers, none of whom would speak to me, the author, not me, Jason, almost certainly one of the only reporters to ever call. Right, yeah, they're not going to talk to you. They're trying to keep things close to the vest, it seems. Sorry, I had to swallow. It says cash grants for insiders. So the agency's existence is predicated on the idea that it is an impartial mediator, biased neither towards labor nor management. But its staff largely comes from a union background, and it gave out grants to promote union membership. But it was too incompetent to do much ideological damage. Its employees' comfort always came before helping unions. Yeah, it certainly seems like, this is ridiculous. We're almost done here, so these are the last few paragraphs. But this corruption is ridiculous. Says anyone could request cash grants from the agency, and if I knew that, I would have just asked them for a cash grant just for shits and giggles. Says with the only requirement that they mention some nexus with unions, however tortured. I guess not. I guess I won't be asking them for money then. It doled out a seemingly random assortment of giveaways to private businesses, perhaps because they were the only ones who knew the grants existed. It gave $63,000 to a hospital that went bankrupt. Good job, guys. $51,000 to a childcare company to help it pay government licensing fees, and $57,000 to a company to strengthen of culture. God, that's a weird way of wording that. Strengthen of culture of continuous improvement to drive us to world-class excellence. Sure. Because what surprised me most about my FMCS investigation was what happened afterward. Nothing. An inspector general made a referral to the FBI, but there were no prosecutions. Instead, President Barack Obama, because of course it was him, nominated a chief subject of the investigation to the top job. A decade later, Trump has done what even the agency's own employees said should happen: shut it down. Excuse me, hiccup at the end there. So, of course, Obama was asked to look into this, and he just kind of went, nah. So just so you know how the things that DOGE is uncovering and that the liberals are out there screaming shouldn't be happening is shutting down agencies like this that are just stealing your money and taking it for themselves to do personal things. Anyway, what did you think about this? Let me know in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.